Good morning. My name is Leah Tame. My pronouns are she and her. And our first hymn this morning is Building Bridges, hymn number 1023. If you would please rise as you are willing or able, and we'll sing together hymn 1023.
I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor's Sunday service. My name is Cindy O'Connor, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I serve our community in several ways, including co-leading the Racial Justice ARC, the Newcomer Chalice Circles, and the Article 2 work group. Our congregation has been rooted in the city of Ann Arbor since our founding in 1865. Serving as a progressive voice and presence in bringing alive a justice-oriented perspective that supports us living into our highest potential, ethically and spiritually, as individuals and as a community. I am grateful to be offering today's welcome. Wherever you may be joining us from, whether here in person, virtually from elsewhere in our state or beyond, we bid you warm greetings as we enter this time of being in community together. If you are a newcomer to our community, know that you are welcome here. If you are in person, please join us after the service to connect with other new folks and friendly UUA members down the hall and to the right in the Jackson Chapel. If you are new to us and joining virtually, please introduce yourself in the chat and fill out our newcomer survey at uuaa.org/newcomer survey. Whether you are new or have been attending for years, we want you to know you can find today's order of service at uuaa.org/OOS. Especially for those watching via live stream, the order of service has hymn lyrics for you to sing along, as well as other information about the service and those participating. Today's worship team includes Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, Senior Minister, Reverend Theresa, Rohlck, Minister of Pastoral Care, Allison, Halerz, our Pianist-in-Residence, Leah Tame, member of the Chalice Circles and today's song leader, Mike Halerz, our technology consultant. We will also hear from Theresa Nemi of the Children's Literacy Network, and I'm delighted to introduce our special guest, LaRon Williams. LaRon Williams is a nationally acclaimed and multiple award-winning storyteller who shares both original and traditional tales that appeal to a wide range of ages and social backgrounds. His energetic, music-spiced presentations are always fun, highly participatory, educational, and entertaining. His presentations are designed to promote diversity, foster community building, encourage peaceful conflict resolution, and teach a host of pro-social skills, including empathy, self-expression, and attentive listening. LaRon Williams has received high praise for his skill at presenting diversity workshops for adults, helping participants understand the nature of invisible bias and moving beyond the emotional stumbling blocks that prevent us from taking collective responsibility for creating a just and equitable society. As our congregation progresses toward our Vision 2050 goals of anti-racism, anti-oppression, and the radical welcoming of others into our community, I feel fortunate to have someone of LaRon Williams' experience and gifts with us today. The Racial Justice Arc and the Anti-Racism, Anti-Oppression Vision Group have been wanting to bring someone to our congregation who could help us grow in our understanding of diversity, collective responsibility, and any resistance we may have to acknowledging the unjust world we continue to live in. As our congregation and denomination continues to educate ourselves about the proposed Article 2 changes, we need to embrace our values of social justice, the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, and action through service. Our journey and search for truth and love lead us to opening our hearts and minds to different perspectives. May we welcome LaRon Williams' contributions and sharing today with the same open heart and mind we bring to our shared values. Now, as we move more deeply into our time together, I invite us to settle our awareness and presence into our theme today of connecting dots across our divides. We are gathered for worship.
Good morning. As we gather together, those of us who are here in person this morning, others live streaming at this very moment, all across the continent, Unitarian Universalist communities are lighting a flame as they gather. That flame representing something different perhaps for each of us. It could be a spark of love, a spark of caring and compassion that resides in each of our hearts. It could be the spark of wisdom, of insight that we nurture together in community. Whatever that may be, we light a chalice at the beginning of our services representing that the community is gathered in service to those ideals and many others. Helping us light our chalice this morning is Reverend Theresa Rohlck. Thank you, Theresa. And as Theresa helps us light our chalice, we invite those of you that are gathered at home, if you have a chalice nearby, please take it out and you can light yours alongside ours, as ours in the sanctuary is lit this morning. And let us join our hearts as well as our voices as we say together, we light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you. Our community and other Unitarian Universalist communities like us are not gathered around a required or mandatory set of beliefs that we all must hold individually. We do not gather around dogma or creed. Rather, we gather to support one another on our individual spiritual journeys as we come together in mutual support of one another in the spirit of caring and love and community. Supporting one another, we help each other reach our highest potential, and as we strive to do that in our own individual lives, we seek to collectively make a positive difference in the wider world around us. It's in that spirit that we offer the words of covenant to one another every time we gather on Sunday mornings. Would you join your hearts and voices with me once again as we say these familiar words, our community's covenant. The spirit of this church is love. and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. May it always be so.
So have you ever built a bridge, maybe metaphorically, like we just sang about at the beginning of the service? Bridges are very helpful things for bringing people together. Have you ever built a wall to keep things apart? Maybe some of the youngest here, have you ever built a wall out of blocks to keep your toys on one side of the room, to keep it away from your sibling? Maybe. Or maybe you've built a wall to separate yourself from something that you think you don't like. But have you ever built a wall in the middle of a book? I wonder if that's a very good idea. But let's find out, because today's story just happens to be about that very thing. It's called The Wall in the Middle of the Book by John Agee. We're holding you in suspense. All the slides. Move back one to the first slide. There we are. Okay. Thank you. There's a wall. Oh, my goodness. Well, there is a wall in the middle of the book. Here we go. There's a wall in the middle of the book. And it's a good thing. The wall protects this side of the book. From the other side of the book. This side of the book is safe. The other side is not. But the most dangerous thing on the other side of the book is the ogre. If the ogre ever caught me, he'd eat me up. That's why I'm glad there's a wall in the middle of the book, and that I'm on this side of it. Wait a second, what's going on? This is not supposed to happen on this side of the wall. Wow, thank you so much. Oh no, I'm on the other side of the book. And you're the ogre who's going to eat me up. I'm actually a nice ogre, and this side of the book is fantastic. Come on, I'll show you around. Hey, ogre, wait for me. The end. And it's the end of our time for all ages, which means we get to sing to the youngest among us as they leave this space for their programs. I invite all of our young people to follow their teachers out of the sanctuary as we sing to you with our love.
Today is one of those Sundays I'm going to invite you to do something we don't typically do. If you have an electronic device that is connected to the internet, please go ahead and take it out if you are with us in person in the sanctuary. If you're live streaming at this very moment, you can in just a moment open up another tab in your browser, and we're going to invite you to join us in a survey process. Those of us who are ongoing members and friends of our community will have received several weeks ago 2 separate communications from our congregation's leadership. The first was related to the possibility of changes in our community's indoor masking policy, and the second communication was related to the structure of our community's gatherings on Sunday morning. These 2 communications discussed and laid out different perspectives and different needs reflected in both of these issues, various pros and cons, and we invited our community members and our friends to engage in an intentional process, an intentional time period of reflection and discernment that included perspective taking, taking some intentional time to imagine what somebody else in our community holding very different needs or very different perspective on either of those issues, why they might have such needs or such perspective, and what those might be about. Through that perspective taking, arriving at a deeper appreciation of the variety of needs and wants that must always be balanced in community. Hopefully, having taken some time to read those 2 separate communications and engage in that type of a reflective process, we're now going to invite you to take a few moments to share your feedback with us. If you have not had the chance to read either or both of these communications that our leadership shared with our community members in advance, we'd invite you to please be sure to try and do that in advance of trying to share your feedback. For those who have access to a device, you can go to UUAA.org/survey and complete and work on that survey. If you're gathered in our sanctuary in person and don't have a device or would like a paper copy, please raise your hand and an usher will get you a paper copy of the survey tool as well as a pen or pencil to write with. electronic submissions are preferred if possible. It helps us work in an easier manner with the responses that we receive. If you're live streaming at this moment, please take a minute. You can open up another tab in your browser and go to uuaa.org/survey. Take a few minutes to complete the survey that you'll find there. And during this process, we will have a few minutes of contemplative music as we participate in this process. If you need a few more minutes to continue working on those surveys, please feel free to continue doing so. If you had paper copies here in the sanctuary that you were working on, those paper copies may be left at the ushering table as you depart the sanctuary. The survey will remain open for the next several days so that you have time to complete it. And as you finish those up here in person in the sanctuary, we'd invite you to please ensure your phone is on silent or turned off altogether once you finish that survey. Thank you so much for participating in these important feedback processes that help us bring the spirit of love alive in community as fully as we can. We are grateful.
One way this congregation connects with nonprofit organizations in our community is by sharing our collection one Sunday a month, usually the very first Sunday. And as it is the first Sunday, today we are very happy to be connecting with the Children's Literacy Network, CLN. One of their board members, Theresa Nemi, is here to tell us a little bit more about the work of CLN. And I think if you are still typing on your survey, you might just pause for a second and finish it up during the offertory music. Welcome, Theresa.
Thank you for allowing me to come here today and tell you about the work of the Children's Literacy Network, CLN, and what we're doing to support young learners in Washtenaw County. As you know, reading and literacy is an essential skill for success in life, and the Children's Literacy Network is doing an excellent job ensuring that children in our community have the support they need to become strong readers. Personally, I have found that one of the significant ways that the Children's Literacy Network is supporting young learners is through the flip nights at the local elementary schools. These events are designed to encourage children to read more and have fun while they're doing it. During these flip nights, the volunteers work with children, playing games, discussing books, and helping them develop their literacy skills. This approach has proven to be very effective since it makes reading into a fun activity that the children look forward to. And at the end of the evening, they even get to select a book of their own to take home with them after the event. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to CLN and their volunteers, sponsors, and partners who have been supporting this program. Your contributions have made it possible to make the positive difference in the lives of so many of our community's children. I encourage all of you to find a way to get involved, either through volunteering or donating, to help support these fantastic programs that are really making a difference in the lives of our young learners. CLN has several other wonderful programs that we can discuss after the service. I'll be in the other room. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
I think we sometimes take for granted our ability to not only listen to stories, but to read them. As you heard Theresa explain, literacy is not a given for many young learners in this county. I cannot think of a more important way to nurture young people and to make a difference to their future success and happiness than to support their reading and literacy skills. The support you give CLN helps open doors to worlds of not just information, but to stories that define who we are. There are many ways to give. If you are in this space here, you may put cash or check in the baskets. You may also text UUAA to 73256 or go to uuaa.org/giving. As the ushers come forward now, and if you have the means, I urge you to give as generously as possible, knowing that any amount will add to the larger whole. Today's offering will gratefully be given and received, and I thank you for your generosity. would the ushers come forward now with the offering, and would you rise in body or in spirit, knowing that the work of UUAA is also the work of our friends at CLN. Would you please join me in speaking the words of our dedication? To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. You may have a seat. And would you please welcome once again to our pulpit, LaRon Williams.
Thank you, everybody. Let me check my time here because I've got to try to talk a little bit quickly here. There's a lot that I want to put in the time that I have. There's an essay that I read about, 23 years ago by Toni Morrison, the author Toni Morrison. And in that essay, she describes a situation in which there's a woman who lives just outside of a city. And she lives all alone in a small house. And on a very hot night one night, she decides she can't sleep, and so she decides to get up and take a walk. It's so hot that she doesn't put on a robe or anything. She just goes out in her pajamas and walks through the city. And as she leaves her house, she has no thought, no concern, no worries whatsoever. Nothing is going to happen to her. Nothing will harm her. And she continues on her walk until she comes to the outskirts of the city. And even in the congested city with people everywhere, she still has no concern for her safety. She passes by a number of people. They wave, they smile. And eventually she comes to a small apartment where from inside the apartment she can hear a baby crying. And she's had a lot of experience with soothing colicky babies, so she walks over and knocks on the door. And before anybody can say anything, she simply opens the door and walks in, knowing that she will be safe. She has no concern, no thought for her safety. The people inside have no thought about their safety and no concerns about a stranger coming into the apartment. She walks over and she tells them that she's good with babies, and they say, "See what you can do." And she helps to soothe the baby, and when she finishes, they thank her. She goes back out into the city and continues on her walk until she becomes tired. She turns around, she goes back home with no thought that anything will hurt her or harm her along her trip. Now think about that. When I was younger and I read that essay struck me very, very strongly for two reasons. First of all, because none of us has ever in our lifetimes had the experience of living in a place that's like that. And for the other reason, because her vision, Toni Morrison's vision, is the same as my vision. Because there was a time in my life when I was very young that I was too young to know that the world was not like that. I thought I could go anywhere and I'd be safe for a very brief period. Maybe I was 1.5 up to 2 or something. Now, Toni Morrison called that little essay home. For her, that was what it would feel like to have a home. Here's my dream. I would like to live on an earth that is completely free from war or the threat of war. I would like to be able to go anywhere on the planet and know that the people I'd meet there and all along the way would make me feel welcome, accepted, and understood. I would like to wake up every day knowing that I and every other person had a safe place to live, enough nutritious, healthy food to eat, clean water to drink, and unrestricted access to the basic necessities of life. I would like to know that no person was so powerful as to be able to control the actions and lives of another, or so powerless that they would be forced to bend to somebody else's will. What do you think about that? Now, those are not crazy fantasies. Right now, according to the group United for a Fair Economy out of Boston, Massachusetts, they collect data and they do these kinds of things. Collective humanity has the technology, the resources, and the knowledge to make every part of my dream a reality right now. There's only one thing that stops us: the stories that we tell, the stories that we hear about each other. My vision is also my declaration. It sits at the center of my life. I declare that there's a kind of a world I want to see, and so I work toward making that world a reality. A long time ago, the truth and the lie never had anything to do with each other. The truth lived at the top of a very tall hill in a beautiful, gorgeous, resplendent house, nice roof job on it, green grass in the front and a beautiful garden in the back, and Olympic-sized pool alongside. The truth dressed in beautiful, resplendent clothing, and everywhere the truth went, people would shake hands with the truth, they would get to know the truth, and so when they opened their mouths, truths came out. The lie, on the other hand, lived way down at the bottom of a deep, deep, deep valley. Dark all the time. The lie wore nasty, greasy, oily clothes all the time. The house was dirty and messed up and smelled horrible. But one day, the truth decided that since truth and lie both lived in the world together, they really should get along a little better than they do. So the truth went down into that valley, put on a mask, and went down into that valley, walked over to the lie's house and knocked on the door. And from inside the house, the truth heard a voice that said, "Go away." So the truth knew that that meant come in, you see, and so into the house, the truth walked, and the truth walked over to the lie and said, "You know, let's be friends. Would you like to go swimming?" And the lie said, Well, the truth knew that that meant yes, and so down to the swimming hole they went. When they got there, they took off their clothes. The truth took off those beautiful, resplendent, wonderful, gorgeous clothes, and the lie took off the nasty, oily, stinky, disgusting rags that the lie always wore, and they jumped into the pool and they started to swim. They did the front crawl, backstroke, they breaststroke, butterfly. They had a lot of fun. They swam all day long. And at the end of the day, the lie was the first one to get tired. So lie climbed up out of the water, walked over to the bushes, and there were those two sets of clothes. The beautiful, resplendent, gorgeous clothes, the nasty, stinky, disgusting rags. I don't have to tell you what happened. The lie took the beautiful clothes, put them on, and headed back toward town. Well, pretty soon the truth got tired, and truth climbed out of the water, walked over to the bushes. There were those two sets of clothes, the nasty, stinky things, the beautiful, resplendent. There were those nasty, stinky clothes alone, and the truth thought, ooh, I don't want to wear that. So rather than wear anything, rather than wear those things, the truth thought it would be better to go around with nothing. So the truth headed back toward the village. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Well, pretty soon when the lie got back to town, everybody saw the lie with these wonderful, gorgeous clothes on, and the lie was clean from having been swimming all day long. People walked over, they shook hands with the lie, they patted the lie on the back, they got to know the lie, and soon after that, every time they opened their mouths, lies would come out. But you know what? They can never get away with it for very long, because close behind the dressed up lie, you'll always find the naked truth. I used to tell that story, and I wanted to add a little piece to it, because that makes it sound like, the lie is going to be everywhere and the lie reaches everywhere. And I wanted to add something else. So I said, remember, no matter where the lie goes, the truth is already there. No matter how fast the lie travels, the truth is already there, because the truth is the truth. It's what actually happens. The lie has to be told on top of the truth in order for us to even hear the lie, right? The truth is always there before the lie. But you know, you've heard that phrase that the lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth gets up and puts on its boots. But I was always happy because the truth was our kind of shared default position, and it was that way for thousands and thousands of years. We could rely on it being like that, but it's no longer the case. No longer. This is a different time. It's the age of virtual reality, intentionally manipulated media, and artificial intelligence. And the lines between what's real and what isn't have been so greatly blurred that the truth is no longer our default position. The truth now has become whatever anyone with enough power and the technological means to convince a large swath of people to believe them says that it is. In this age, in the absence of the intentionally repeated truth, the lie is there to fill the void. In the face of this kind of alternate reality, nothing can be assumed to be understood or believed. Simply resisting the lies that are told is no longer enough. The truth needs to be advocated, heralded, elevated, if it's to be heard at all. The story that is the truth has to be shared. It's been said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. But it doesn't do that all by itself. Those who believe in justice have to make it happen. There's no vision for justice if justice dreamers don't make that vision, put that vision out into the world. To reach home, to reach Toni Morrison's image of home, we have to connect the dots that take us there. In the first half of the Grimm's fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel. So if you know the story, you know there's two halves, right? And in the first half of the story, Hansel and Gretel's mother leads them deep into the forest, and she abandons them, just leaves them there to die. But they outsmart her by leaving a trail of stones that they're able to follow back home. One by one, they pick up and connect those stones until they get back to the front door. Through the twists and turns and the confusion of the trees, they safely make their way back. Now, like Hansel and Gretel, we have to make the connections that will take us home. By repeating the truth and telling and heralding it, and also by sharing our visions of a hopeful future where we all can belong. Once upon a time, there were two sisters. These two sisters were best friends. I mean, they shared all the secrets in their hearts, all the secrets in their minds. The younger sister happily wore the clothing that the older sister discarded. They never fought, they never argued, they got along all the time. They were such good friends that as they grew older, they decided that they wanted to remain close, and so they found two houses that were separated by a great big road, and they set up farms on each side of the road. Every day, maybe about 2:30 in the afternoon, they would get together and they would talk about the things that were happening in their day, and they would cement their friendship. Now, near their farms in the village nearby, there was always a yam growing contest. Every year they would grow yams and submit them to the contest, and the judges would pick the biggest yams, the most succulent, the most delicious yams, and the winner would be the one who had the best yams. And every single year there was a man named Kofi who won that contest. Kofi, every year. The most juicy yams, the most delicious yams. Well, one day when the two sisters were enjoying their time together, they were having tea. The first sister said to the second sister, "Sister, why don't we do something different this year?" And the second sister said, "Well, what are you thinking of?" The first sister said, "Let's put our best yams together and enter it as a single crop." And the second sister said, "Well, you know Kofi always wins the contest." And the first sister said, well, maybe if we put our best yams together, we might win. And so that's what they did. They put their best, chose only the best yams and put them together. And when the contest came around, the judges walked over and looked at their yams, and they were the winners. That's how it is in stories. Now, you know they felt wonderful about that, right? But you can imagine how Kofi felt. He was mad. And so he sat down and he tried to come up with a plan. And he had an idea. He would do something to drive a wedge between those two sisters. He made for himself a special cap, a cap called a fila in that part of Western Africa. It was a cap that was two colors divided exactly evenly down the center, a small round cap, so that on one side of the cap it was red, the other side was black. He put that cap on his head so it was exactly even, and on that day, when the two sisters were out working in their fields, at a time that he knew they'd be out there, he walked down the road. He made a lot of noise so they'd be sure to hear him, to see him. And the two sisters looked up from their work. They saw Kofi, and he kept walking, and they went back to work. Well, now later, when they sat down to enjoy their time together, the first sister said to the second sister, sister, did you see Kofi walking down the road today? And the second sister said, yes, I did. He was wearing a brand new fila. And the first sister said, well, yes, he was. I saw it. It was the most beautiful black fila that I've ever seen in my life. And the second sister said, yes, I saw him, but I'm sure he had on a red fila. The first sister said, well, no, sister, I'm certain that it was black. Oh, no, you must have blinked too quickly. It was a red fila. No, I'm sure I know what I saw. I mean, are you telling me that my eyes are playing tricks on me? And the second sister said, no, I'm not. I'm sure that you're sure what you saw, but it was not a black fila. It was a red fila. It was black. And the first sister said, it was red. Second sister said, it was black. Red, black, red, black, red, black. It was red. Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? I know you never liked me in your whole life. They started to argue over and over and over, back and forth, until finally, the second sister got up, stormed out of the house, and went back home. Well, now, when the yam growing contest came up that year, they didn't pool their yam crops together. And Kofi won the contest. And he won it the year after that, too, and the year after that, and the year after that. So my question for you is, raise your hands. My question for you is, which sister was right and which sister was wrong? Who has a thought? Go ahead. Two hands. What? They both were what? They both were right? And wait a minute now. They both were right and they both were wrong. Who said they both were wrong? Or you just, well, you're saying you want to play both sides of the field. Who said and wrong? And wrong? Why do you think they were wrong and right? Why do you think they were wrong? They saw different things? Oh, they saw different things, so they were right, but to argue about it is wrong. So let me ask you, how do you know they saw different things? Well, but how do you know one half was red and one half was black? Because what? How did they know that? Well, don't switch it. How do you know that they saw, one saw red and one saw black? How do you know that? Somebody can help him out. Because what? I told you, right? I told you every single thing that happened in the story, right? In other words, I gave all of you a higher point of view than the two sides that were in contention. You know that they were wrong to argue with each other, and so do you, because you have a higher position for viewing that. You have a different point of view. You have more information, and you're also looking at it with a different approach of reconciliation, right? You're not trapped in the subject matter of the story. How can we give each other that kind of approach? Sometimes when we're in situations, in discussions, there are competing realities present there, the truth and the lie. So here's something. I had to fumble for this morning, but it's right here this afternoon. I have a coin here, it's a quarter, and it has a tail on one side and a head on the other side, right? Heads and tails are in diametric opposition to each other. The head never knows what the tail knows. It doesn't see what the tail sees. They never see each other at all. So the question is, how can a head learn about a tail? How can a tail learn about a head? Yes, they're two sides of the same coin. So what's the remedy? How could a head learn about a tail? Communication. So the word I always use, and I hold up there's a whole purse here full of coins. In community, they can learn about each other. In community. So I've given you two jobs: to tell your truth, to spread the truth, and to make it the work that you always do. It's indispensable these days that we tell our truth. There are people who believe that the earth is flat. There are people who believe that the earth is about 6,000 years old. There are people who believe that Donald Trump is still the president of the country. They believe that. And how can they hear a countervailing story to those things? Only in community. Now, I always get asked the question, people always say, well, I can't talk with, and this was true. I had a neighbor who is in the camp of the believers of things that I don't believe. And it was very hard to talk with him about those things. But there were other things that we could talk about. Food, plants. We both loved planting our gardens. And that person knows somebody else who lives down the courtyard, and somebody else, and we all can have conversations, and they spread out like ripples until finally, we find our way home. We can get home by sharing our truth and by growing our truth. And that's the end of that story.
If you would take a moment and look in the teal hymnal, 1025, When Will the Fighting Cease? This is probably a new hymn for many of us, so if you would just take a look at 1025, we'll sing through it a couple times, and then we'll sing all together. If you would now, in body or spirit, rise and sing with us this hymn, 1025.
Dear ones, take just a moment to look around you and look around this sanctuary, your neighbors, your siblings in faith. Wave, smile with your eyes because we can't always see the smile underneath the masks. These are your companions, your sibling heads and tails, living different perspectives and different needs and different hopes and aspirations and longings, and that is good, and that is right, and that is just how it was meant to be. And yet it is only through experiences like this, community, that we can begin to hear, be present to, and understand the tremendous variety of perspectives, experiences, and needs that we are constantly surrounded by. So we begin small. We begin in the innermost circle of folks who mostly agree with us about most things, like us Unitarian Universalists. We start and we practice. We're a community of practice. We practice these things of how to be present to one another across difference. And then we expand the circle of practice. We include family, extended family. We include our workplaces. We include the town we live in. We include the culture we're a part of, the nation that we're a part of. We start small and then build outwards that practice of being present in a loving and good way, of how to arrive at that higher perspective, the higher perspective that can help bridge differences. Hold in your hearts as we enter a new week that aspiration, that longing to be bridge builders. For each of us has that in our hearts, to be just that, to honor our authenticity and integrity while we help others honor their different honor, integrity, and authenticity. That's our highest calling, to live in that way as bridge builders. Go in love and peace. Allow your words and deeds to be in service to that until we are together again. May it be so. Amen.